What are the rights of the creditors? Everyone's got rights, everyone's got obligations, everyone's got everything. We're dealing with the creditors' rights. So this is the bank or the financial institution who is lending the money out. Creditors' composition and assignments for the benefit of creditors are two methods available to debtors for managing their financial difficulties and offering partial relief to creditors. First, we've got creditors' composition. A creditor's composition, this is an agreement between a debtor and at least two other of their creditors in which the creditors agree to accept a reduced payment from the debtor in full satisfaction of their claims. This allows the debtor to settle their debts at a lesser amount while the creditors receive at least partial payment for the outstanding debts. We got an example here. A business facing financial difficulties may negotiate a creditor's composition with its creditors in which it agrees to pay 60% of the total amount owed to each creditor in full satisfaction of their claims. The creditors accept this agreement, knowing that they will at least receive some payment rather than risking the debtor's bankruptcy and potentially receiving nothing. Assignment for the benefit of creditors. An assignment for the benefit of creditors is a voluntary process in which a debtor transfers their property to a trustee or assignee who is responsible for distributing the property's proceeds among the creditors. Unlike a creditor's composition, this process does not discharge the debtor from any unpaid debts. The trustee's primary goal is to liquidate the debtor's assets and distribute the proceeds fairly among the creditors, following the priority of their claims. Example here, a financially struggling business may decide to assign its assets for the benefit of its creditors. The business transfers its property, such as inventory and equipment, to a trustee. The trustee then sells these assets and uses the proceeds to pay the business's creditors. The debtor remains liable for any unpaid debts after the distribution of the proceeds. Now, both creditors' composition and assignments for the benefit of creditors aim to provide some relief to debtors facing financial hardship while ensuring that creditors receive at least a portion of the amounts they are owed. These mechanisms will help to allow for a more orderly and fair distribution of the debtor's assets as opposed to forced liquidation or bankruptcy. Now, the assignment of the benefit of the creditors, that sounds a lot like bankruptcy, as we'll see. And it's kind of, think of it as a prelude to bankruptcy. It's kind of a lesser step, and that's the connection there. Now, creditors' composition, if you, let's say, have credit card debt of $10,000 and you're just telling the bank, hey, I'm not going to be able to pay this back. What if I just pay you $8,000? That might be okay with the bank. It's just negotiating with the creditors. Liens. We're going to see this term throughout the exam. Let's make sure we understand what a lien is. A lien is a legal right or interest that a creditor has in a property or asset of a debtor as security for a debt or obligation. The creditor can use the lien to sell the property or asset if the debtor defaults on the debt or obligation. Now, liens can be created by agreement between the parties or by operation of law. A lien can be voluntary or involuntary, depending on how it's created. And in a voluntary lien, the debtor grants a lien to the creditor as security for a debt or obligation. In an involuntary lien, the lien arises automatically by operation of law. We're going to see types of liens here as well. Again, a term we'll see throughout the exam, so make sure you just know what a lien is, and then more so that than the types of liens, but also make sure you know the types of liens as well. A mortgage lien. A mortgage lien is created when a borrower pledges their property as security for a loan to purchase the property. The lender has a lien on the property until the loan is paid off. You could even just say it's a mortgage, right? But technically, this, if you wanted to get super technical, this is the term. It's a mortgage lien. Next up, judgment lien. This is created when a creditor obtains a court judgment against a debtor. The judgment creates a lien on the debtor's property, which the creditor can use to satisfy the debt. A judicial lien is a remedy for a creditor after the debtor has already defaulted on their debt. The creditor then asks the court to seize the debtor's property to satisfy the outstanding debt. The seized property is then sold, and the proceeds go to the creditor. Certain necessary properties, such as the debtor's primary residence, may be exempt from seizure under homestead exemptions, which will protect a portion of the home's value from being subject to the lien. Again, a lot of overlap with bankruptcy that we see here. Just keep in mind, we will see a lot of similarities. Next up, mechanics lien. This is created by a contractor or supplier who has performed work or provided materials for a construction project but has not been paid. The lien gives the contractor or supplier the right to sell the property to recover the amount owed. These are just definitional. It's if you've gotten your tax stuff down, because that's definitely more important in the business law, as I've said throughout, you got that down. Understand these varying terms, because these could just be multiple choice questions. What is it describing? Now, a tax lien is created by a government agency when a taxpayer fails to pay their debts. The lien gives the government the right to sell the taxpayer's property in order to pay those tax debts. Make sure you are paying your debts as they become due. We got a few more here. Artisan's lien. This is created by a person who has performed work on personal property, such as if they fix your car or if they repair your jewelry, but has not been paid for their services. The lien gives the artisan the right to retain possession of the property until the debt is paid. A landlord's lien. This is created when a landlord has a claim for unpaid rent or damages against the tenant. The lien gives the landlord the right to retain possession of the tenant's property until the debt is paid or the tenant vacates the premises. And we got vendor's lien. This is created when a seller of property agrees to finance the sale and takes a lien on the property as security for the unpaid purchase price. The lien gives the seller the right to repossess the property if the buyer defaults on the payments. All right, doing well, making sure we got these down, powering through. What are some tools that the creditor can use to collect their debts? We've got a few things here: prejudgment attachment, garnishment, mechanics liens. These are all various tools available to creditors for securing and enforcing their rights to collect debts. First off, the prejudgment attachment. This allows a creditor who has reason to believe that the debtor may not pay their debt to ask the court to attach the debtor's property as security in case of default. If the debtor defaults, the attached property can be seized and sold, with the proceeds going to the creditor. So you have this inclination that the debtor may not pay, so you go to the court and say, here is the proof. Can we get this going? Next, garnishment is a legal process that allows a creditor to collect debts directly from the debtor's assets held by third parties, such as wages or bank accounts. Social Security payments are generally not subject to garnishment. There's usually a limit on the amount of an employee's wages that can be garnished to protect the debtor's ability to meet their basic needs. And all these things we'll be going over in more detail as well if they're important. More so garnishment, we'll see that as well. Mechanics lien. This is a legal claim on a property for unpaid labor, material, or services provided on the improvement of that property. We saw this previously, but we're diving into it a little bit more deep here. The lien is automatically attached to the property upon the provision of services or materials. We've got two types of mechanics liens. We've got possessory liens. These liens are created when a service provider retains possession of the property until the payment's made. The lien dissolves once the property is returned to the owner after payment is received. Then we've got non-possessory liens. These liens will be created when the service provider does not have possession of the property. Non-possessory liens are typically recorded with the local property records office to provide notice of the lien to potential buyers or lenders. Now, these tools can help creditors protect their interests and ensure that they receive the money owed to them. However, there will be limits and exemptions in place to balance the rights of both creditors and debtors, ensuring that the debtors can still meet their basic needs while repaying their obligations. Important because you can't drain all the money out of someone, otherwise they won't be able to pay anything else back. Hey there! Are you ready to not only pass your CPA exams, but truly understand and enjoy the material while studying? I know it seems impossible, right? Especially to enjoy the material? We'll do it together. Tap into the power of CPA.examprep.ai, where we've got personalized quizzes, multiple choice questions, memorization guides, flashcards, simulations, all tailored to your learning. Our adaptive study planning puts you on the fastest path to success and lifts you back up if you fall behind. Avoid wasting your precious time and money attempting an exam with a low chance of passing, because who wants that? We want to get you through this process as quick as possible. Our exam readiness prediction lets you walk in with confidence, knowing that you're prepared for success on exam day. Thankfully, there's no payment method needed to get started, so why don't you come join us? Visit cpa.examprep.ai and let's achieve your exam success together.